Right, so I am Bree Mills, and this is my submission for the Wildlife Behavior Final. For question one, we talked about the behavioral endocrinology in male chimpanzees, specifically testosterone, which is an androgynous steroid hormone secreted from the testes along the hypothalamic pituitary gonadal axis and supports male to male competition. And cortisol, which is the stress associated steroid hormone secreted from the adrenal gland along the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis and provides metabolic support during stressful times. Specifically, we looked at these steroids during three different activities. So, boundary patrols, hunting, and meat sharing were what Dr. Terry analyzed. And she found that significantly elevated testosterone was seen before and after boundary patrols, and likely this was due to possible male to male interaction and competition during boundary patrols. And hunting, there was no significant relationship with testosterone prior to a hunt, and there was actually reduction in testosterone after a hunt. Testosterone, however, is more related to male-male competition, which is not actively related to hunting within chimpanzees, or at least this group. Meat sharing in captive chimps, meat sharing was lower testosterone, and this was also found in the Ngogo chimp population. Both Scherer and Sherry had testosterone reduction from this activity. As for cortisol, it was found that during boundary patrols, cortisol was significantly increased both before and after, and likely this was due to stress of a possible encounter with a other chimpanzee. In hunting, cortisol was also increased before and after, and this was likely due to stress of foraging as well as preparation for hunting. So looking for food, hoping you find food, as well as encountering a live animal that you need to then dispatch so you can eat it. And this is my sources for this question. For brood parasitism, I decided to address the striped cuckoo. This bird ranges from South Mexico to Paraguay and Uruguay and northern Argentina. It's also found in most of Brazil. It inhabits wet grasslands, second growth shrubs, open lands with scattered clearings, trees, and forest borders, and therefore it benefits from human fragmentation of the habitat. It has over 20 host species that include yellow-chinned spinetails, rufous and white wrens, furnarids, and other closed nesters. And I just wanted to quickly address, so these are some of the species we're speaking about. And this is an oven bird, which is a fernarid, with its closed nest that is usually enclosed to prevent brood parasitism, but we will discuss that. Some of the unique adaptations of the striped cuckoo include that their egg color changes depending which part of their geographical range you're in. So South American cuckoos will lay white eggs, while Central American cuckoos will lay bluish-green eggs to fit that of their main host, which is the rufous and white wren. Spectral analysis, however, showed that there was a difference in pigment between the host and cuckoo eggs. So they looked the same, but they were not made up of the same pigment. And cuckoo eggs were actually shown to have a higher enzyme that creates a stronger shell, both against microbe invasion and again structurally makes it stronger as well, possibly against host harm. It's currently believed that due to the cuckoo's preference for closed nesters, that females lay their egg at the rim of the host nest and rely on gravity to make the egg successfully roll into the nest. So this is a very interesting theory because it relies a lot on chance. In terms of conservation, the cuckoo and many of its hosts of the three I've discussed are considered least concerned. The cuckoo and the ovenbird both have stable populations, whereas the rufous and white wren and the yellow-chinned spinetail are believed to have declining populations, but they are still listed as least concern based on their last census. And this is my sources for this question. For the third question, I found the pheasant cacao while looking for a cuckoo species. This is a relative of theirs, and it presents a wide range of paternal care behaviors. Nest building, the male is responsible for about 90% of the nest building in this species. Males have only been observed incubating eggs. Females did visit the nests, however, they never took turns to incubating. It was found that brooding was solely performed by the male. However, it is believed that brooding by males declined as the nestlings got older. And nestling feeding was significantly found to be higher in males than females, but females would bring more food to the nest for larger broods and older nestlings. The evolutionary benefit behind this is a little complicated. So Maurer, in his first paper where he observed all this parental care, posed that increased paternal care is due to the species being in a current transition between polyandry and social monogamy. And he believes specifically that this transition was due to a decrease in habitat quality, which then limited male range. It's also possible that this species could switch between polyandry and social monogamy as conditions dictate. So, decreased resources would lead to social monogamy, whereas increased resources would lead to polyandry. Um, he should also noted that increased male care would allow female to gather resources to produce excess eggs as needed. Um, in 2011, Maurer and his research team investigated how Australian pheasant cacals could categorize among simultaneous polyandry, sequential polyandry, and social monogamous mating systems. And all around, they decided that this species currently is displaying social monogamy through territories that overlap with opposite sex only between one individual of each sex. Um, One bird of each sex calling from a territory about 75% of the time during morning choruses. Um, each individual territory only ever containing one male and female, and then female genotype was found, only one female genotype was found in all the broods in a male's territory, so they all had the same mother. There was extra pair copulations, as we know, that doesn't negate social monogamy. Um, and it was also found that sequential clutches within a male's territory had the same mother. So this all highlights the belief that pheasant cacals are actually in a transition between polyandry and social monogamy, which is very interesting. And this is my sources for this question. For question number 4, I chose a paper that focused on veterinary client adherence. And adherence they defined as an outcome that arises from a collaborative and mutual relationship with the veterinarian and the client that that allows the client to make intentional choices concerning treatment regimens based off diagnosis and accompanying treatment options. Overall, it should be noted that veterinary client adherence and compliance studies have been slim compared to those conducted within human medicine. Relationship-centered care, however, has had positive results within human medicine. And relationship-centered care is a collaborative partnership between the veterinarian and the client with mutual respect, understanding, recognition of everyone's perspectives and expertise. Researchers for this study wish to explore the effect of veterinary client-patient interactions on client adherence and surgery and dentistry procedures, and to see if there was a relationship between client satisfaction, relationship-centered care, and client adherence. In order to collect all this data, they recorded veterinarian and client appointments before following up with medical records to see if the recommendations were followed. And then they also reviewed the videos to assess tone of both veterinarian and client and to identify client-centered communication. And then a survey was also administered afterwards to measure client satisfaction with appointments. Of 83 recorded visits, 59% included surgery discussion and 40% contained dentistry discussion. 63% of these visits contained clear recommendations for a procedure, while 37% of the visits had an ambiguous recommendation. Overall, 30% of clients adhered to the recommendations given to them. Of that 30%, 88% received clear recommendations. Therefore, clients who received a clear recommendation were 7 times more likely to adhere to procedure recommendations. Adhering clients were found to be significantly more satisfied with their appointments than non-adhering clients, and it was also found that relationship-centered care scores were higher for communication with adhering clients than non-adhering clients. When veterinarians communicated with a highly sympathetic and empathetic tone, it was matched by the client, and clients were also more likely to adhere to the recommendations they received. Clients who received longer appointments, the mean time being about 18 minutes, were more likely to adhere to recommendations. Non-adhering clients received appointments with a mean time of about 14 minutes. Overall, some conclusions and recommendations. Clear recommendations are important when communicating with veterinary clients. Client satisfaction is also closely related to client adherence. Relationship-centered care leads to greater client adherence with recommendations in veterinary medicine, at least through this one study. A sympathetic and empathetic tone can encourage client adherence along with not being rushed and taking your time with the appointment. Finally, a positive rapport building action such as laughing, approval, compliments, or agreement can encourage client adherence to procedure recommendations. And overall, I chose this study because I want to be a veterinarian. I want to know how I can help people understand recommendations for their animal and follow those recommendations pending no external limitations. So yeah, thank you.